Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to this panel on Kyrgyzstan. I am Erika Marat, and I teach at American University. And we have a great panel here today, very distinguished experts on Kyrgyzstan. We're going to have 5 speakers, and each is going to talk about 8 to 10 minutes. I'm going to cut short wherever is over time. We are going to begin from Honorable Kamilbek Manaliyev. He's the chairman of Foreign Relations Committee at the Kyrgyz Parliament, and he is here coming straight from Bishkek, from Kyrgyzstan. And the floor is his.
Саламатсыздар, урматтуу мекендештер. Ылайыктуу болсун үчүн да биз докладты орус тилинде даярдайбыз. Ошон үчүн мен орусча окугам, туура түшүнсөңүздөр. Уважаемые участники, дамы и господа, позвольте выразить слово благодарности Турко-Американскому альянсу за приглашение и предоставленную возможность выступить с высокой трибуны сегодняшнего форума.
Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues, please allow me to express my gratitude to the Turkic-American Alliance for inviting me here and for giving me the opportunity to present at this convention.
Уверен, съезд задаст темпе нужный вектор продвижения сотрудничества турко-язычных стран США и открывая новые приоритеты для долгосрочных перспектив.
I am certain that the convention will set the tone and create the necessary momentum for further cooperation between Turkic-speaking countries and the United States, and we will be able to establish a mutually beneficial interaction.
Кыргызстан – это первая страна, которая из стран Центральной Азии выбрала путь развития парламентаризма.
Kyrgyzstan is the first country that has chosen a parliamentary government system in the heart of Central Asia.
Находится в самом центре Центральной Азии с огромными ресурсами в сфере гидроэнергетических ресурсов.
Our country is in the heart of Central Asia and has enormous hydro resources.
Именно гидроэнергетические ресурсы, по оценкам Организации Объединенных Наций, будет в основном остром дефиците в ближайшие десятилетия.
According to the UN, these hydro resources will be in very limited supply in the next few decades.
Сегодня в мире почти около миллиарда человек не имеет доступа к чистой воде, а около 3 миллиардов населения живут в условиях ее дефицита.
Currently, almost 1 billion people doesn't have access to clean water, and almost 3 billion are experiencing shortages.
Если в начале 21 века в зонах с ограниченными водными ресурсами проживали 40% жителей планеты, но через лет 10-12 эта проблема будет остро расти и будет актуальна уже для 60-65% населения мира.
In the beginning of the 21st century, about 40% of the world population lived in areas with limited water resources. But 10, 20, 12 years from now, their number will grow to 60-65%.
Это значит, приблизительно 5 миллиардов человек более чем в 80 странах мира будут жить в условиях его дефицита.
That means that more than 5 billion people in more than 80 countries of the world will be experiencing water shortages.
Страны Центральной Азии обладают значительной ресурсной базой для энергетики.
Central Asian countries have significant hydro potential.
Регион является одним из самых обеспеченных в мире энергоресурсами.
And this region is one of the most endowed with natural energy resources.
Эти ресурсы по состоянию на 2010 год составляют запас угля на 600 лет, запасы нефти на 65 лет, запасы природного газа на 75 лет.
According to data from 2010, there is enough coal resources to last the next 600 years, enough oil to last 65 years, and enough natural gas to last 75 years.
По добыче угля регион занимает 10-е место в мире.
The region ranks 10th among coal producers of the world.
По запасу черных, светлых и редких металлов регион входит в десятки стран мира, первые десятки стран.
It also is a leader among the richest reserves of ferrous, non-ferrous, and rare metals. It's in the 10 most endowed countries of the world.
По совокупности производства золота, это вместе Узбекистан, Кыргызстан, Казахстан, занимает 9-е место в мире.
And taken together with our other countries who produce gold. Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Kazakhstan together are 9th in the world.
По выработке электроэнергии регион находится на 19 месте в мире.
And as far as electricity production, the region is ranking 19th in the world.
И основной объем гидроэнергетического потенциала всего Центральной Азии находится в Кыргызстане и Таджикистане.
And the main hydro potential is located in Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan.
Кыргызстану принадлежит 48% всего объема водных запасов Центральной Азии.
And Kyrgyzstan has 48% of all the hydro resources.
Кыргызстан оказался в водонапорной башне Центральной Азии.
And Kyrgyzstan is sort of a water tower of the entire Central
И
Asian
на ее
region.
территории находится сердце организма, питающего страны верхнего и нижнего течения, не только для водой, как для питья, так и для сельскохозяйственных нужд, а также дешевой и экологически чистой электроэнергией.
And our country is the heart of this vast organism that serves the upstream and downstream countries' needs for potable water, but not only that, but also irrigation water. It is also the source of cheap and environmentally friendly electricity.
Во время существования Советского Союза на территории современного Кыргызстана была построена сеть гидроузлов и водохранилищ с расчетом на обеспечение соседних государств.
In the Soviet era, a network of hydro complexes and water storage reservoirs were built that were capable of servicing the neighboring countries, and all of that was built on the territory that is now Kyrgyzstan.
Согласно межреспубликанским соглашениям, на Кыргызстан возлагались обязанности по содержанию водохранилищ в обмен на поставку топливных и энергетических ресурсов из соседних стран.
According to agreements between the republics, Kyrgyzstan was supposed to maintain these reservoirs and in return was supplied with fuel and electricity from the neighboring countries.
После развала Советского Союза Кыргызстан продолжает добросовестно, как и прежде, накапливать и оставлять попуску воды для ирригационных нужд соседних государств.
And after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Kyrgyzstan continues to fulfill its mission to collect and discharge water and service the needs of downstream countries.
Вместе с тем, государство нижнего течения предлагает нам топливо-энергетические ресурсы, то есть газ и нефть, исключительно по рыночным ценам.
At the same time, the downstream countries are pricing their fuel and energy resources according to market prices.
А расходы по обслуживанию гидротехнических узлов межгосударственного значения, которые находятся на территории Кыргызстана, по всем объемам легли на государственный бюджет Кыргызской республики.
And Kyrgyzstan national budget has to shoulder the burden of maintaining the hydro complexes that are important for the entire region.
И стремительный переход на рыночные отношения вынуждает нашу республику значительную часть государственного бюджета затрачивать на покупку нефти и газа.
The sudden shift to market economy is forcing Kyrgyzstan to allocate a considerable part of its national budget to purchase oil and gas from abroad.
В свою очередь, необходимость выработки Кыргызстаном дополнительной электроэнергии, особенно в осенне-зимние периоды, вынуждает переводить режим работы Токтагульского гидроэнергетического узла.
At the same time, Kyrgyzstan must produce additional electricity, especially in the fall-winter seasons, and is forced to switch hydrological regime at its Toktagul reservoir.
Таким образом, мера по переводу работы Токтагульского водохранилища гидроэнергетического узла на энергетический режим является вынужденным шагом.
Therefore, the switching of the hydrological regime at its Toktagul reservoir in order to produce electricity is a circumstance that is forced upon Kyrgyzstan.
И с учетом сложившегося положения стало ясно, что развитие гидроэнергетики это является приоритетным направлением экономики Кыргызстана.
Considering these circumstances, it is clear that hydroenergy is the main area of development in the energy sector of Kyrgyzstan.
На сегодняшний момент по гидроэнергетическому потенциалу Кыргызстан занимает третье место стран бывшего Союза.
And currently, Kyrgyzstan's hydro potential is ranked third in the CIS.
Сегодня 90% гидроэлектроэнергии в республике вырабатывается крупными гидроэлектростанциями.
Today, 90% of the electricity in the Republic is produced by large hydropower plants.
Однако в данном процессе практически не задействована малая и средняя энергетика.
However, small and medium power plants are contributing hardly anything.
Освоение гидроресурсов малых рек республика составляет всего лишь 3%.
Exploitation of small river hydro resources accounts for only 3%.
Активную заинтересованность в строительстве малых ГЭС в последнее время проявляют и турецкие компании.
Turkish companies are very interested in building small hydro plants.
При этом гидроэнергетический потенциал больших и малых рек оценивается на уровне 142,5 миллиарда киловатт-часов электроэнергии, который сейчас задействован только на 10%.
But the potential of these small and medium rivers is estimated at 142.5 billion kilowatt an hour, only 10% of which is being used.
В последнее время в нашей стране сложился благоприятный режим не только в области формирования демократических прав и свобод человека, а также для ведения бизнеса.
Currently, in our country, we not only have favorable conditions for establishment of democratic rights and freedoms for our people, but also a favorable business environment.
Во многих сферах экономики имеются огромные возможности для инвестирования.
In many spheres of economy, there are enormous investment opportunities.
Только на реке Нарын можно построить 33 гидроэлектростанции с установленной мощностью 6,5 тысяч мегаватт с годовой выработкой более 22 миллиарда киловатт-часов электроэнергии.
Narin River alone is capable of supporting 33 hydropower plants with installed capacity of 6.5 megavolts, potentially producing more than 22 billion kilowatt an hour of electricity annually.
В ближайшее время ожидается как вот эксплуатация второго агрегата Камбарата-2 мощностью 120 мегаватт, строительство Верхненарынского каскада ГЭС и Камбаратинской ГЭС-1.
We are planning such projects as to commission a second power unit at the Kambaratinskaya power plant, Kambaratinskaya 2, with installed capacity of 120 megavolts, and also planning to build a hydroelectric power chain in the upper Narin basin, Kambaratinskaya 1.
Инвесторы, российские компании намерены вложить в гидроэнергетические проекты около 4 миллиардов долларов.
Investors, Russian companies, are set to invest in these hydro energy projects almost $4 billion.
Уже в мае месяце этого года начинаются практические шаги в строительстве Верхненарынская каскада.
We are planning to begin the construction of the Upper Narin Basin power chain in May of this year.
Мы приветствуем участие и других компаний, других соседних стран, Казахстана, Узбекистана и Турции в данном большом проекте.
And we are inviting all of our neighboring countries, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and even Turkey, to join us in implementing these exciting projects.
Хочу обратить внимание особое на тот факт, что реализация указанных проектов позволит вернуть гидроэнергетику Кыргызстана обратно с энергетического в ирригационный режим работы, что прежде всего важно и выгодно для стран, расположенных ниже по течению.
I would like to draw your attention to the fact that implementation of the above-mentioned projects would allow Kyrgyz Republic energy sector to switch from power generating regime to irrigation regime, which would first of all be very important and beneficial for the countries downstream.
Также энергетические стратегии страны предусмотрена реализация проекта строительства Сусамыр и Кокомеринского каскада.
Our national strategy also includes implementation of other projects, construction of Susamur and Kokomerinsky power plant chain.
По этому проекту компания Синэгидро, китайская, проводит предварительные исследования.
This project is currently being evaluated by a Chinese company, Sino Hydro, which is conducting preliminary studies.
Определенный интерес проявляет к строительству каскада ГЭС на реке Сарыджас китайская корпорация Гадян, которая намерена инвестировать более 3 миллиардов долларов США в освоение гидроресурсов вышеназванной водной артерии.
Another Chinese corporation, Godian, is interested in building a power plant chain on Sarajas River, and they are prepared to invest more than $3 billion to harness the hydro potential of this river.
Отмечая практический результат кыргызско-китайского сотрудничества в сфере развития энергетического сотрудничества, можно отметить строительство в Кыргызстане подстанции Датка-Кебин примерно стоимостью 400 миллионов долларов.
A great achievement, an example of Kyrgyz-Chinese cooperation is in the hydro sector of our economy is construction in Kyrgyzstan of a power station, Datka, which cost $400 million.
Датка-Кемин с подстанцией 500 киловатт, далее объединяет его подстанцией 500 киловатт Алматы.
And this substation has a 500 kilowatt capacity and it could be joined with another substation, Almaty.
Появится дополнительная возможность экспорта электроэнергии в Казахстан и Ходжент, Таджикистан.
And that will give us further opportunities to export our electricity to Kazakhstan and to Kodjent in Tajikistan.
Тем самым обеспечивается взаимовыгодное функционирование централизационного энергетического кольца. Это практические результаты межгосударственного сотрудничества в нашем регионе.
Thus, we're able to secure mutually beneficial operation of the Central Asian electricity ring, a great achievement of our multinational cooperation in the region.
Кыргызстан открыт для взаимовыгодного сотрудничества в сфере гидроэнергетики как с инвесторами из США, Турции и из других стран Европы.
Kyrgyzstan is open to mutually beneficial cooperation in the energy sector with investors from the US, Europe, Turkey, and other countries.
В свою очередь, реализация политики по искусственному созданию противоборствующих блоков типа страны верхнего течения против страны нижнего течения неприемлема для нашего региона.
I would also like to note that any attempts at creating the types of politics that divide the region into two opposing blocks, such as the countries of the upper basin versus the countries of the lower basin, are unacceptable.
Многовековая история мирного существования народов Центральноазиатского региона является тому свидетельством.
For many centuries, these countries were able to peacefully coexist, and it's a testament to the fact that we should be able to continue to do so.
И здесь важно отметить, что регион представляет собой единение родственных туркоязычных народов с примером успешной интеграции с другими этническими группами, в частности, с персоязычными таджиками.
And it's important to emphasize that the region is home to many Turkic-speaking nations, and our people have been successfully integrated with other ethnic groups, with Persian-speaking Tajiks, for example, and others.
Хочется также отметить усилия Кыргызстана и Таджикистана в урегулировании ситуации внутри Афганистана, а также обеспечение Исламской Республики Пакистан электроэнергией.
We admire the efforts of Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan that they have undertaken to help settle the situation in Afghanistan, as well as their efforts to supply Pakistan with electricity.
Необходимо обратить внимание на темп продвижения проекта по организации Центрально-Южноазиатского электроэнергетического рынка КАСА-1000.
We must also closely monitor the development of the Central Asia regional electricity market.
В рамках проекта КАСАРЕМ прорабатывается вопрос экспорта электроэнергии с Кыргызской республики и Республики Таджикистан, Исламской республики Афганистан, а также Исламской республики Пакистан.
This KASAREM project is now focusing on the issues of exporting electricity from Kyrgyz Republic and Tajikistan to Afghanistan and Pakistan.
Таким образом, можно сказать, что перспективное развитие гидроэнергетической отрасли страны окажет влияние не только в Кыргызстане, но и способствует разрешению обустройства внутриафганской ситуации.
Therefore, it is safe to assume that any future positive development in the hydro energy sector of our country will not only have a positive impact on Kyrgyzstan itself, but will contribute to the solution of many issues inside Afghanistan.
Тем самым Кыргызстан получит возможность продавать энергию по более высокой цене, чем за нее платят наши соседи.
Kyrgyzstan will have the opportunity to sell the electricity at a higher rate than it is now receiving from its neighbors.
Это в конечном счете позволит государству инвестировать в строительство новых и модернизацию старых энергетических объектов.
This will allow our country to invest in construction of new power plants and to modernize old ones.
Более того, сейчас во всем мире идет борьба за электроинтеграцию, в том числе в Центральной Азии.
The entire world is now interested in and is fighting for electrical integration, including Central Asian countries.
В этой связи для Кыргызстана потенциальным рынком сбыта электроэнергии являются Афганистан, Пакистан, Иран, Китай и Россия.
In this regard, Kyrgyzstan considers Afghanistan, Pakistan, Iran, China, and Russia to be potential markets for its
Реализация
electricity.
вышеуказанных проектов является одной из основных задач Кыргызстана в деле обеспечения энергетической безопасности и благоприятно отразится на социально-экономической ситуации в странах региона, а также заложит фундамент успешного регионального сотрудничества государств Центральной Азии.
Implementing the above-mentioned projects is one of the main tasks that Kyrgyzstan has taken upon itself in order to obtain energy security. But it will also have a positive effect on the social and economic situation in other countries of the region, and will become the foundation for future successful cooperation of the Central Asian countries.
Сегодня Кыргызстан является лидером проведения демократических реформ.
And today, Kyrgyzstan is the leader of democratic reforms.
Кыргызстан является по численности неправительственных организаций.
We are leaders as far as the number of non-governmental organizations.
Кыргызстан является лидером по уровню свободы слова и печати.
We also are leaders as far as the freedom of speech and press.
Кыргызстан является примером по проведению и развитию гендерной политики.
We're also in the forefront on promoting gender equality policy.
Сегодня в Кыргызстане Генеральная прокуратура женщина, председатель Верховного суда женщина, председатель Национального банка женщина, председатель Счетной палаты женщина и 27% парламента составляют женщины.
So the general prosecutor is a woman, the Supreme Court judge is a woman, the president of the National Bank is a woman, and a big percentage of women in the national parliament.
И в ближайшем будущем мы уверены, что Кыргызстан станет лидером по развитию гидроэнергетики в регионе.
And we are certain that in the near future, Kyrgyzstan will also become the leader in hydro sector development in the entire region.
Спасибо за внимание.
Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for outlining the challenges and opportunities Kyrgyzstan today is facing. Our next speaker is His Excellency Mukhtar Jamaliyev. He's ambassador of Kyrgyzstan to United States.
Thank you, Erica, very much for agreeing to moderate our session, and I would like to also welcome all our friends and guests here in Washington, D.C. I'm really very happy to have you all here in our session, and I'm really happy to have with us the Secretary General of Turksoy, Dusanaka. Thank you very much for joining us, and also the Secretary General of the Council, Turkey Council, and we really appreciate that you are with us today. First of all, let me to extend my sincere appreciation to the organizers for bringing us together in this gathering. This is my first time when I am speaking in this panel, and I'm really enjoy to have so many business representatives from Kyrgyzstan, not only from Kyrgyzstan, but also working here in United States. And they came to participate in this forum, especially the 18 members of the Youth Interpreters Association who is participating in this forum. I think this session and this forum will allow us to make a real good bridge between Turkic states, business community in United States, and we see how more and more interest is developing, and from interest from our countries towards the United States, and vice versa from America to Kyrgyzstan. We believe that our statistic in trade will be improving, and that is why I would like to mention briefly about the trade opportunities and legal framework which exists in Kyrgyzstan in order to stimulate trade relations between our countries. Kyrgyzstan external trade turnover in 2012 was at level about $7 billion, and we have $2 billion in the export side, and the rest is the import side. So we have really even we have negative saldo, but it shows that Kyrgyzstan's trade regime is very liberal and very open. I think the Kyrgyz Republic also, from the beginning of its independence, started to build the open market economy, and we started to negotiate to bring our legislation into the international standards. And one of the efforts in this process was the joining of the Kyrgyz Republic to the World Trade Organization. We started to negotiate our accession process in 1996 and completed in 2 years. And in 1998, Kyrgyzstan became full-fledged member to the World Trade Organization. So we are almost experiencing 15 or more than 15 years of our trade with the WTO members. So during this period, Kyrgyzstan brought its legal framework and the foreign trade regime into the international standards, the standards of the multilateral trading system. So today our entrepreneurs has a spirit of multilateralism in this trading, and we also see how the participation of Kyrgyzstan in this organization creates more better opportunity for the investors to come into Kyrgyzstan, since our regime is predictable and all the aspects related to trade is a subject for the review and for the review under the trade policy of the World Trade Organization. We really very grateful to our partners of the in United States, especially the development organization, USAID, one of the biggest supporters of Kyrgyzstan's accession process. We almost trained within the 6 months, our trade negotiators in the WTO and USAID supported about 30 Kyrgyzstan government official negotiators to participate in these training courses. And this was one of the main advantages to train our experts to be prepared for the negotiate in WTO accession process. Saying about the investment opportunities, we say that we have quite improving investment climate in Kyrgyzstan and business opportunities, and it's a task we still continue to improve and the investment regime, and it's a priority task for our government. First of all, the government pays great attention and takes measures to improve the indicators of the World Bank doing business project, and the reforms in recent years has resulted reduction of the number of procedures at the opening of businesses. As a result of 2 years, the reform Kyrgyz Republic has lifted from the place of 99th place to 41st. So this is the really good indicator for Kyrgyzstan. In accordance with the law and investment, the foreign investors in Kyrgyz Republic have a wide range of rights to carry out their business activities. The core of them is the right of the national treatment, which provides the foreign investors with the same rights as Kyrgyz domestic entrepreneurs has. Foreign businessmen are free to invest in any sectors of economy and withdraw their revenues that outcome from investing without any limitation, and are entitled to appeal to international arbitrage court in case of disputes may occur. And this is the same to the World Trade Organization, since Kyrgyzstan is also signing the agreement within the GATS, so we are the member and complying and following to the obligations under this agreement. With regard to the priority sectors for the foreign investment regime, and our previous speaker, Mr. Manaliyev, has already mentioned about the energy sector. So I would like also add that agriculture sector has a big potential in Kyrgyzstan, and taking into account the hydro resources and low level of average wage. So this sector has been also researched by our experts from the International Trade Center, has a competitive advantage in the region to promote and to support from the government side. There are all necessary conditions and items in Kyrgyzstan to train the highly qualified specialists. So we have a number of universities, colleges and institutes, including those with the high education standards, such as Kyrgyz National University and Kyrgyz Russian Slavic University, American University in Central Asia. We have also the Kyrgyz Turkish University, Manas and Alato. So at the same time, the level of the... So these institutes became not only the institution for Kyrgyzstan, but this is also very popular in the Central Asian region. So we are receiving so many students from the region. Among other priorities fields for investing are the information and communications technology and tourism sector. In terms of ICT, and Kyrgyzstan has introduced in 2011 the law on high technology parks, which provides its residents with the special terms and preferences in taxation. In the context of the tourism, Kyrgyz Republic in 2012 has adopted the law which introduces visa-free regime up to 60 days with the 44 countries, so including the citizens of the United States of America. So Kyrgyzstan has non-visa regime for all the tourists and business people from the United States. I would also mention, since Kyrgyzstan is moving and doing political reforms, and with the new political system, we believe that this new system can support also to promote sustainable environment and for business and for investment. Besides the geographical and economical and legislative features that our country has, Kyrgyzstan was the first and only country in Central Asia that has shifted from the presidential system to the parliamentarian style of governance. In 2010, as a result of the nationwide referendum, the new constitution was adopted and declaring the Kyrgyzstan's parliamentary country. At the same time, the President Rosa Otunbayeva was voted to be a country's president for the transitional period. In October 2010, parliamentary elections, and in December 2011, presidential elections were held, ending the transition period for the country. The above-mentioned elections were assessed positively and endorsed by the democratic and international observers, including the OSCE. Besides the democratic elections, it was the first time in Central Asia when the head of state ensured the precedent to power succession from the president in office to the president-elect and peaceful transfer of power in accordance with the state's constitution. As a result, today we have President Almazbek Atambayev, and we have 5 political parties in the parliament with the parliamentary majority coalition and opposing parties. We have already 3rd coalition government which is appointed by the parliament. Unlike the authoritarian presidential regime, which we used to have until 2010, today we have a real system of check and balance based on truly democratic principles, when there is no single person or family that can dictate the countries and nation in his own selfish interests. I believe that all these democratic principles, which we were introducing today in our country, must form the basis for the good business and trade opportunities for all foreigners interested and invest in our country. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ambassador Jumaliev. Our next speaker is Ambassador John O'Keefe. He is former U.S. Ambassador to Kyrgyzstan. He's currently an executive director at Open World Leadership Center at the Library of Congress.
Thank you very much, Erica. It's my special pleasure to be here on the panel with my good friend, Mr. Manaliyev, with Ambassador Jumaliev, and with Mr. Politis and Zarina. It is a special treat for me. I also would like to thank the organizers, and particularly to thank Erica for her moderation of this. One of the things I was thinking about, and we've heard, I think, from Mr. Manaliyev, the very good position Kyrgyzstan is in terms of development of hydropower and water resources. And I think Ambassador Jumaliev outlined some of the real strengths of the Kyrgyz Republic. It's very strong university system, which includes international universities and strong institutions like Kyrgyz State, as well as the many years of being under the WTO regime, so that the underlying laws and regulations really do support free movement of capital and other areas to help businesses. But as I think about the Kyrgyz Republic, I think about its location and its size. A little over 5 million people, surrounded by larger neighbors, some very large, like China, with relations and strong economic ties to Russia. It's landlocked. And so what movement of goods and services that are going to happen will either be done through, somewhat distant movement of goods and services if you're talking about to Krasnoyarsk or southern Sibir, or those kinds of services and goods that don't depend on physical movement, or those kinds of goods and services that bring people to Kyrgyzstan. So let me just mention some of the ideas about a strategy for Kyrgyzstan Incorporated. So what are the assets? We mentioned a few already. The other thing is that pretty much most of the population is bilingual, Kyrgyz and Russian. Many speak English. I know some speak Korean and other languages. It does have extraordinary mineral wealth. That's a great asset. It has, I think, also extraordinary physical beauty. The country is one of the most magnificent in the world. And it's not even that big, but it is extremely, extremely attractive for tourism. So let me just say, if you're thinking about Kyrgyzstan as a corporation, obviously with many elements to it, where are the things where you can invest? Where are the things where you can promote? And where are the things that are going to do several things? Bring return on investment, but also create jobs, create prosperity within the country. I think one of the things that strikes any visitor at first is the potential for tourism. I just spent a week at Lake Tahoe. It's a beautiful lake between California and Nevada. It's a mountain lake. It's about the same level above the sea as Issyk-Kul, but it's a lot smaller, and the mountains are not as big that are around. So it attracts a lot of people, a lot of investment, a lot of activity. Issyk-Kul is a summer tourism spot. But you know, those mountains have snow there year-round. So you think about this, the people who are employed are only employed June through September. If you make this a 4-season resort area, then you've got year-round employment. That's the first thing. The second thing is that the tourists who do come to Issyk-Kul, who are coming from outside of Kyrgyzstan, naturally are from neighboring states, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, some from Russia. But if you do think about whether you want to make this an international destination, much as the Swiss have developed Interlaken from all over the place. If you go to Interlaken, you see many people from India. Well, you know what? A flight from India is about 2.5 hours to Kyrgyzstan. You could tap that market. So what I'm saying is there should be a way to make rational development around Issyk-Kul and some other areas, turn it into a 4-season resort. Think about people from coastal China who want to get away from the summer heat to go to a beautiful place like Issyk-Kul, people from India who don't have to go to Switzerland. They can come to Kyrgyzstan. So it's this opening up and trying to figure out how you get your marketing, but mostly how you get your infrastructure. The second area is agriculture, and again, as Ambassador Jumaliev said, it is one of your assets. So there are two things. One is, I was thinking about the island of Fiji, middle of the Pacific Ocean. If you go into one of the grocery stores here in DC, you're going to see water, bottled water on the shelf, and it says Fiji water, and they sell it for like $2 for a half a liter. You can actually market water from 12,000 miles away in the US and make money on it. Think about for Kyrgyzstan with the rich assortment of herbs and plants that only grow in mountains. Think about the quality of apricots, the quality of the fruits and the tomatoes that come out of the Fergana. You can create high-end special markets for these kinds of goods, especially lightweight things. So if you're making herbal teas, it's easy to send it by air because the value per kilo is so high. So what I'm saying is, in agriculture, it's not just sending those potatoes and onions to Novosibirsk by truck or train. It's really taking the agricultural products and adding value in Kyrgyzstan and then finding these markets. The third, obviously, is mineral wealth, and that was mentioned before. So think about what happened about 3 years ago. Japanese and Chinese have a fight. The Chinese have a near monopoly on rare earth elements. They stopped shipment to Japan. It causes panic. We closed down all our mines for rare earth in the United States about 8 years ago. Kyrgyzstan is rich in rare earth elements. Again, you don't need that much of it for manufacturing. So this is an area where if you've got a monopoly in China, how do you develop it and market it and find your niche there? And then the last one is the natural beauty. And I list that as a separate item from the tourism because in Issyk-Kul, even though it's a huge lake and with lots of shoreline, there is still risk to a place that large being ruined by development that doesn't enhance the beauty but distracts from it. And so, again, as the Kyrgyz parliament, the government, Ambassador Jumaliev, start thinking about marketing Kyrgyzstan as a destination, I think that the government and the authorities have to have a really good long-term plan and strategy for places like Issyk-Kul, Sangkul, Zarychelek, all extraordinary places. And then as one final point, you know, why are people coming primarily from Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, and how do they get there? Well, they drive, because you can take the road. There's an airport, but it's not a very good airport. So the first step, if you think about this element for economic development and investment in Kyrgyzstan, is putting in a world-class international air hub at Issyk-Kul, and then you can go from there. So those are just some of my observations. I would say that I was in Kyrgyzstan as ambassador 10 years ago. I've gone back several times since. I do congratulate the Kyrgyz people on, as Ambassador pointed out, the non-violent transition, several of them. President Otunbayeva was and is an extraordinary woman to step back and have that transition happen. So I would just want to express my admiration for Mr. Imanaliev and members of Parliament for their work, for the ambassador for his good work here in Washington, and thank you for listening to me today.
Thank you, Ambassador O'Keefe, especially for promoting tourism in Kyrgyzstan. Our next speaker today is Paul Politis. He is Deputy Director of the Office of Central Asian Affairs at U.S. Department of State.
Thank you, Erica. Good afternoon, everyone. First, I just want to thank the Turkic American Alliance and the Rethink Institute for organizing this conference. As someone who, in my position, I cover all 5 of the Central Asia states, and then I've worked in Kyrgyzstan, so it's someone who's spent a lot of time working on either in Central Asia or on Central Asia issues. It's great to see this kind of focus on a region that's really very important, and it's a fascinating region, but it's increasingly important to the United States, and it will remain important to the United States long after the security transition in Afghanistan. In my current position, as I mentioned, I cover all 5 of the Central Asia states, but I'm really pleased that I was invited to take part in the Kyrgyzstan panel I worked in the political section at our embassy in Bishkek from late 2003 until the middle of 2006. And so I was lucky to be able to work in Bishkek during what was really a fascinating and historic time for Kyrgyzstan. I was fortunate enough to meet with Mr. Manaliyev at least once at the embassy when I was there. And I also want to thank Ambassador O'Keefe. Unfortunately, I arrived in Kyrgyzstan just a few months after his tour in Bishkek ended, but he was really instrumental in helping me to get that position at the embassy in Bishkek. So I have him to thank for my introduction to this region and to Kyrgyzstan. And just to touch on your comments about the natural beauty, I think I'm convinced that for those of you who have never been to the American Embassy in Bishkek, I won't say it's the most beautiful embassy, but it is, I'm convinced, the most beautiful drive approach to an American embassy in the world. You drive down a long, straight road lined with beautiful, huge birch trees on both sides of the road, and then straight ahead of you are mountains that are covered in snow, even in the middle of July. So it's you're looking straight at the Al Archa National Park, and it's a really amazing place. And I was there, I think, for the last time last April, and it was great to be able to go out to Al Archa again and go out for a walk. But I thought, because my office, we are responsible for managing the bilateral relationship with all 5 of the Central Asian countries, so I thought I would talk a bit about the bilateral relationship with Kyrgyzstan. And our relationship began, of course, 20 years ago when we recognized newly independent Kyrgyzstan. And we've built a really strong, I think, partnership over those 20 years. And like any relationship, it has its ups and downs, and some of the biggest down moments were the time when I was in Kyrgyzstan, but we've also had very strong times in building that partnership since then. Especially in the last 3 years, we've been fortunate to have the annual bilateral consultations process, which we just had the most recent ones in the middle of January when Assistant Secretary Blake traveled to Bishkek to lead the U.S. delegation there. When you read a lot we see a lot of talk in the media about our relationship with Kyrgyzstan, and it tends to focus, I think, too much on the transit center at Manas International Airport. And I don't want to downplay the significance of the transit center. It's been really crucial in providing support for coalition efforts in Afghanistan. And Ambassador O'Keefe was there when the transit center was opened, at the end of 2001. And we're grateful for the support. We in ISAF are grateful for the support that Kyrgyzstan has provided over the last little more than 11 years. But really, our relationship with Kyrgyzstan goes far beyond the transit center, and that's kind of what I wanted to focus on today. I think as I mentioned with the annual bilateral consultations process, I think we try to have those twice a year, and they provide a good sort of snapshot of the overall relationship, because when for instance, in January, Assistant Secretary Blake led the delegation out there, and it's a full interagency delegation. You have people from different bureaus in the State Department, different parts of the United States government, and it's a great opportunity for us and for the Kyrgyz government to put a full range of issues, cultural and education exchanges, economic assistance, the New Silk Road vision, security assistance, basically everything that fits into the bilateral relationship. Every piece is discussed at these, and so it gives a good snapshot of really how broad our relationship is with Kyrgyzstan. So at the last discussions in January, which were in Bishkek, we really managed to cover a lot of ground and push forward on a lot of important areas in the bilateral relationship. But touching on assistance briefly, we offer a lot of assistance in the health and education sectors, which we covered at the ABCs, as we call them. But the economic and the political assistance will really kind of remain the centerpiece of our relationship with Kyrgyzstan and our assistance strategy there. But over the last 20 years, Kyrgyzstan has really made remarkable progress, especially in the democratic reform front and rule of law, and Mr. Manaliyev really touched on that with all the areas that Kyrgyzstan has really shown leadership, and including with the role of women in government and civil society and business. And we recognized that when we hosted the Women's Economic Symposium in Bishkek with Rosa Otunbayeva 2 years ago. And since 1992, we've provided almost $1 billion in assistance, bilateral assistance to Kyrgyzstan over all sectors. And while the Kyrgyz people deserve all the credit for the democratic development of Kyrgyzstan, it's really because of their hard work and the political will that they have shown to really move things forward. We've been proud to support that process in any way we can over the years. And since 2010, the people of Kyrgyzstan have voted into office a new parliament and elected a new president. They've had a series of elections that were competitive and were free and fair elections. And Ambassador Jumaliev commented on the coalition, and I think sometimes people have focused in the media on the frequent turnover of the coalition, and that this is somehow a sign of instability or a bad thing. But I would actually argue just the opposite. It's a sign that the system that they have put in place in Kyrgyzstan is working as it was intended to work. Democracy is sometimes a messy system, as we see from our own democracy here in the United States, but the fact is that the coalitions were worked out according to the law, according to the Constitution, the way they were intended to. And so I think that's something that we should applaud the Kyrgyz Republic for. But throughout the last 20 years, they've built these milestones and demonstrated the real strength of their democratic institutions through the formation of these coalitions, and we're proud that we were able to support that over that time. And we will continue to support that over the coming years, and we've made that commitment to the government of Kyrgyzstan that we will continue to support their democratic development. In the last 2 years, we've been pleased to be able to host a number of delegations from Kyrgyz parliamentarians, including Mr. Imanaliev, and then earlier last year, the Speaker of Parliament, Mr. Jayinbekov, was here, and there have been a number of other delegations here, both through being hosted by organizations such as Ambassador O'Keefe's, and through NDI or through the House Democratic Partnership Program. And so we're really, I think that's one great thing, is that we've seen a much stronger partnership between our Congress and the Parliament of Kyrgyzstan, which I think is fitting because of the parliamentary system in Kyrgyzstan. And then we also have a USAID parliamentary strengthening program that's ongoing in Kyrgyzstan. And the real focus of that program is improving the legislative process, strengthening the committees in the parliament, improving information flow to civil society and the public, and improving the human resources management in the parliament. A second area of focus in the bilateral relationship is economic development. And we have frequent discussions with the government of Kyrgyzstan about economic development. We know that's a real concern for the government. It's something we discuss with them frequently, and that we work on through the State Department, through USAID and the Peace Corps. And we're committed to continuing our assistance programs across a broad range of areas, and based on sort of the input from the Kyrgyz government about what are the areas of most important need. And we really welcome the efforts of the government to establish government-wide strategies, like President Atambayev's roadmap for sustainable economic development, which is a strategy that he just presented in December of 2012. And in the last several months, USAID has worked to deliver agricultural equipment and to 14 seed farms across the country. But it's it's a competitive environment in Central Asia, like everywhere else. Economies are, foreign investors compare economies to one another, and they're going to invest their money where they see the greatest return, but also where they see the best environment for the investment. And so the future of the Kyrgyz development of the economy is going to depend a lot on how well they're able to attract foreign investors to take advantage of the opportunities there. And strengthening the rule of law and reducing corruption are critical prerequisites to successful private investment, both domestic and foreign. And to their credit, The government of Kyrgyzstan has repeatedly and publicly acknowledged the importance of addressing these issues, and we really welcome those efforts, and that's something that we will continue to work on in our assistance and bilaterally to strengthen those efforts. And we encourage the government to push those efforts forward. Our embassy and the local American Chamber of Commerce in Bishkek are also working very closely with the government to encourage stronger and greater U.S. investment in Kyrgyzstan by working with companies that are interested there. For instance, the American Chamber of Commerce recently created what we call a portal to Kyrgyzstan business website and a call center to assist U.S. businesses that are interested in registering for government tenders, either with the transit center or through the Northern Distribution Network, or to provide goods for troops in Afghanistan. And as of January of this year, the Department of Defense, the U.S. Department of Defense, had already signed up 3 contracts with local companies in Kyrgyzstan to provide goods and services that successfully utilize the portal. And the American Chamber of Commerce will soon hold a franchising seminar to help attract more companies to the region. I'll touch very briefly before I finish on the New Silk Road vision, and I think I want to touch on Mr. Amanaliyev's comments. I think he provided a very eloquent, I think, summary of the benefits of the New Silk Road vision and how it stands to better connect economically Central and South Asia and Afghanistan, and the real potential there. Kyrgyzstan, of course, does not border on Afghanistan, but the huge hydroelectric potential there and through the CASA 1000 project is something that could benefit the entire region. And I think that Mr. Amanaliyev did a far better job than I could in terms of expounding on the potential benefits of the New Silk Road vision for Kyrgyzstan and the entire region. And Kyrgyzstan has really been very helpful in both for its support for the Northern Distribution Network and for transit agreements with Tajikistan and Afghanistan in promoting a better integrated region. And of course, Kyrgyzstan was a real pioneer here by joining the WTO in 1998, and we look forward to welcoming Kazakhstan into the WTO very soon, and then Tajikistan, of course, just acceded to the WTO. So I'll close with that by just saying that over the last 20 years, we've built a really strong, I think, record of cooperation and partnership with Kyrgyzstan, and we look forward to continuing and building on that record in the years ahead. We have a really strong partnership. Ambassador Jumaliev has really done a great job here in Washington in building ties both with the State Department, with Congress, with everyone here who, there are a lot of friends of Kyrgyzstan here, and a lot of that is thanks to Ambassador Jumaliev's work. A lot of friends of Kyrgyzstan in the State Department. We look forward to continuing to work together over the coming years. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Politis, for giving us state of the affairs of Kyrgyz-U.S. relations. And finally, our last speaker is going to be Zarina Abdisheva. She has vast experience in World Bank and UN, and she is going to talk about Kyrgyzstan from the point of view of international development.
Thank you, Erica. I think I'm officially out of time, so I'm going to keep my presentation extremely brief. First of all, I would like to thank the Turkish-American Alliance and Rethink Institute for organizing these important meetings with focus on Central Asia, on doing business in Central Asia and regional development issues. I would like to thank my fellow speakers. I'm delighted to be in such a distinguished company of experienced professionals who's been doing so much for the country. I myself, having worked in World Bank and United Nations, I will be probably mostly speaking about development issues in Kyrgyzstan. And before I proceed, I would like to just mention that I had the privilege to work in Turkey for the past 3 years. I lived in Ankara for 3 years, and I'm extremely delighted to see some of the familiar faces from the business community, from the Turkish business community and foreign ministry. It's very close to my heart, and I'm delighted to be here in this convention. Before I proceed, I would like to also join Paul's statement saying that United States is one of the actually the largest donor, bilateral donor for Kyrgyzstan, and we've been working in the country for the past 20 years and supporting virtually every sector of the economy. In addition to being a largest bilateral donor, United States contributes to the various international financial institutions and some of the trust funds that are managed by the World Bank and the United Nations. Those are just to mention a few, the Global Environmental Facility and the Global Agricultural and Food Security Program that has been established a few years ago after the G20 meeting in Pittsburgh. I also would like to mention that Turkey is one of the donors, bilateral donors that have been funding several programs in Kyrgyzstan through TICA, Turkish International Cooperation Agency, and it's one of the resource partners that the United Nations and the World Bank has been cooperating with for the past more than 5-6 years. Just briefly, I would like to mention some of the strategic documents, strategic program documents that the donors are doing jointly for the country. One of the biggest documents that United Nations country team, so-called UNCT team, develops on the regular basis. It's a midterm document. It's called UNDAF, United Nations Development Assistance Framework. It's a midterm document that actually closely coordinated with the country development strategy developed by the Kyrgyz government. The latest country development strategy that Mr. Imanaliyev has mentioned and Mr. Ambassador mentioned covers the next 10 years. There is a midterm and a long-term document, and while developing this document, UNCT team coordinates closely with the Kyrgyz government. The current UNDAF document covers the next 5 years, and it's based on the priorities identified by the government. Just to mention a few issues that are being clustered in 3 major pillars. The first is peace and cohesion, effective democratic governance, and human rights. This is the first pillar of the reforms that the government has put together. The second is social inclusion and equity. And the last one, inclusive and sustainable job-rich growth for poverty reduction. For this one, as you know, as you might know, that the donors developed so-called poverty reduction strategic document supported by the World Bank and IMF. And this is a long-term program document that supports reforms developed by the Kyrgyz government, and jointly with the the line ministries in each sector, the donors support specific reforms targeted to poverty alleviation. The other document that I would like to mention is the Joint Country Support Strategy, JCSS. This is the document that the development of this document is led by the World Bank and supported by the 5 major donors, multinational donors such as Asian Development Bank, Swiss Cooperation, UK Development for International Development, DFID, the World Bank, and United Nations agencies. This document is also a midterm document, and based on the priorities outlined by the Kyrgyz government in its program document, Country Development Strategy. The joint document is a medium-term framework for managing cooperation between government of the Kyrgyz Republic and development partners to achieve national development and poverty reduction plans. This document is based on the basic documents that outlines the spirit of national and international commitments and initiatives on aid, effectiveness, and harmonization. Those are the documents that based on Rome Declaration on Aid Harmonization and Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness. The current document, the strategic document of the government covers the next 5-year period, and this document, the joint document by the donors, is dedicated to underpin the group support to reduce transaction costs, to ensure a coherent, well-coordinated response to support the implementation of the strategic document of the plans of the government. I just would like to mention the priority areas for joint donor support for the next midterm period. The first group of reforms is titled Economic Management Consistent with Strong and Sustained Pro-Poor Growth. This group of reforms will be dedicated to support budget reforms, cross-cutting reforms in public financial management, and aligning financial management with government priorities. The second group is reducing corruption, improving governance, and effective public administration. These reforms will include deregulating the economy, increasing transparency, improving the capacity of the civil service and public administration, and legal reforms. The next group is building sustainable human and social capital through specific social reforms, with targeted social reforms to improve health and education outcomes, including access to and improving the quality of health, education, and social protection services. And the last is ensuring environmental sustainability and natural resource management. During this process, these cluster documents are the major goal is to reach implementation of the Millennium Development Goals. And you might have heard it or read it in several of our documents. The Millennium Development Goals, they have certain benchmarks. And the benchmarks, certain targets that the country, the Kyrgyz government is sort of expected to implement and reach. So the current benchmark is 2015, and the Kyrgyz government, I'm very pleased to quote the current analytical documents, that the Kyrgyz government is doing a great job in reaching those goals. And as Mr. Imanaliyev has mentioned, the gender equality at the post-educational level is one of the goals that the government is working successfully. So the making sustainable progress towards MDGs will require the development and implementation of concrete plan of actions and targeted investments in priority areas that has been specified in those strategic documents. Before I finish, I just would like to mention that unfortunately some of my colleagues could not participate in this convention. The colleagues from the World Bank who cover specific areas on assessing the country's ability to improve investment climate. And one of the annual assessments that the World Bank does is so-called doing business. And I'm pleased to say that the Kyrgyzstan has been in the top 10 countries that managed to improve investment climate, and now moved to number 9, I believe, among more than 40 countries with economies in transition. This includes doing business normally includes every step on doing business from registration, one-stop shop to register a business to taxation and legal base and etc. The other yes, and I guess, since the convention is discussing energy trade and specific issues related to these particular areas, I would like to refer you to some of the sectoral work done by the World Bank recently, and specifically the World Bank led analysis on impact of the customs union created by Kazakhstan, Belarus, and Russia. The impact of the customs union on the neighboring countries, including Kyrgyzstan. That this analytical work that has been looking into specific issues on export and re-export from Kyrgyzstan, and how these customs union and regulations affect on increasing fees and affecting some untraditional, uncommon channels of export. So this is very important documents that you're welcome to visit World Bank sites and the United Nations site to extract the document. They're publicly available. Thank you so much for your attention, and if perhaps there are other questions, thank you.